We're finishing up this series called Over It, and this is our last week. And you know what? Have you guys ever had to wait for something for a long period of time?
Yeah.
Like I'm talking a long time. You had to wait for something that you thought never was going to come. Like spring break. That's like how long away? That's too long away to even think about. How about summer break? We're already got like camp sign up starting in like 3 weeks, and summer's like 4 or 5 months away. So that's kind of sad. You got to wait a long time for that. I remember when I was I had to have been like 5th or 6th grade, and we were at an amusement park with my family, and we lived in Joplin, Missouri, which is just a couple hours away from a place called Branson, Missouri. Any of you guys ever heard of Branson, Missouri? It's like, I don't know, it's like the small version of Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And so, if you've ever been there, and so we went to there. We went to Branson a lot as a family, and we went to an amusement park called Silver Dollar City. And Silver Dollar City was a fun amusement park. And I remember the first time they got their first spin upside down roller coaster, because it's a smaller size park compared to Six Flags or Magic Mountain or something like that. So we went there, and it was their first upside down roller coaster that you go through the loop and spin upside down. It's supposed to go from 0 to 90 in like 2.5 seconds, and it's pretty legit. And I remember the first time we went to Silver Dollar City after that opened, and we had to wait in line for like 2 hours. It was like the worst. I remember the line went all the way around. They create those creative rails to make you wrap the line around like a million places. Well, I remember thinking oh, this line's not too bad. We'll just wrap around, this big long room here, probably about this size, and we'll wrap around and then, we'll go. Well, what I didn't realize is this is a 2-story building. And so we wrap around that way, and then we go upstairs and wrap around a whole entire circular room, come down the other stairs, and then this snake of lines. And we were in line for, like I said, 2 hours to ride this line. And I got to tell you, I'm not the most patient person. By the time we got to the ride, my legs hurt so bad, I was just ready to go home. It wasn't worth the wait. But then I got on the roller coaster and I rode it. And let me tell you, it was the best thing I ever experienced. This is the first upside down roller coaster I'd ever been on, and it was amazing. You guys like roller coasters? Are you roller coaster people? I love them. Some people it makes them sick, not me. I'm still a kid at heart when it comes to roller coasters. I love them. And I remember having to wait forever. But you know what? No matter what we're waiting on, the waiting part usually isn't much fun. No matter what it is, whether it's a roller coaster or until your parents finally get you an iPhone or whatever, no matter what we're waiting for, the waiting part is never much fun. It's something we've got to learn something called delayed gratification. You guys know what that is? It's not very popular nowadays because we want something, we get it in a second. But delayed gratification is the practice where you delay gratifying yourself. You delay getting what you want for later. It's not like I want pizza, so I'll just call the pizza shop and have them send it to my house in 10 minutes. No, it's okay, I want pizza. I'm going to take out the dough and that I made from scratch, and then I'm going to put all the sauce on, and then the cheese, and then the meat, and then I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait on it for about 20 minutes. And then I'm going to take the pizza out, and when everyone is ready, we'll eat. That's waiting. And see, we're not very good at this. But no matter what we're waiting on, it never is much fun to do the waiting. And here's the thing. The thing about forgiveness is that it often requires us to wait. That's what we've been talking about the last 3 weeks. How forgiveness can be good, and even though it's difficult. And this week we're talking about how actually forgiveness is really more for you than the other person. Forgiveness often requires us to wait. And more often than not, forgiveness just takes time. Because here's the thing. Sometimes you forgive, but your feelings don't change. You ever been there? Your parents made you no, say you're sorry to your sibling, and they say sorry to you, and then you're okay, now what do you say? You say, I forgive them. And you say, well, I forgive you. All right. And you don't really, nothing really changed inside of you. So there's the sense that we have forgiven somebody, but we don't really feel any different. Or maybe sometimes you forgive, but the other person doesn't change, right? The assumption is that when you forgive somebody for doing wrong to you, that they change and they don't do it again. But sometimes when you forgive someone, they don't change. And then still yet, even when you forgive someone, sometimes the situation just doesn't change. So maybe it's a situational thing where you just are in the same situation over and over again, and you can keep forgiving, but that doesn't mean this situation is ever going to change. And so sometimes, here's the trouble. Forgiveness, it takes a lot of time, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it's doing any good. So why forgive? It doesn't feel like it's making any difference at all. But forgiveness takes time. And here's the thing. When Jesus was walking around and doing his ministry and his disciples were following him, this culture was kind of like an eye for an eye and a tooth for tooth kind of culture. Like, you did something wrong to me, well, I'll do something wrong to you, you know? And you repay people the wrong that they've done to you to them. And that's kind of, honestly, that's kind of the culture we live in still today. But Jesus' disciples are following him, and they ask him this question. This is from Matthew chapter 18, verse 21. The disciple named Peter came to him and asked, "Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times?" And you know, Peter's probably thinking, like, because they had a rule of 3, like, you know, kind of 3 strikes, you're out kind of thing. We kind of still ironically have that today too. We kind of, sometimes it's untold expectation that we'll like, all right, you're the 3rd strike, I'm not forgiving you anymore. Like, but so Peter's thinking like, well, 7 times, I'm being generous, right? Like I'm going to impress Jesus with this answer. How many times should I forgive someone? Like 7 times. And here's what Jesus says. Jesus says in the next verse, no, not 7 times, 70 times 7. Now that's a lot of times. 7 in Bible times, the numbers carried significance. Numbers carried weight. So if you've noticed, if you've ever read the Bible, there's lots of like 40 days, 40 nights, right? There's Noah and the ark. There was Jesus fasting in the desert, 40 days and 40 nights. That seems to be a number. The 12 was a big number. There's the 12 tribes of Israel. Jesus had 12 disciples. There's something about 12 that carries weight. There's 3, like Jesus was on the cross for 3 days, and then Jonah was in the belly of a whale for 3 days. And there's this theme with numbers. 7 represents completion, because that's when, Jesus, when God created the earth, he took 7 days, 6 days to create and 7 to rest. 7, it's a number of completion. And so Peter's thinking 7 times is complete. And Jesus saying, no, 70 times 7. Like the complete of complete numbers. Meaning, like, these numbers carry weight more than they carry a measurement, if that makes sense. He's making an expression. Because if we do the math, have you guys done the math yet while you're sitting here thinking? What is 7 times 70?
490.
Very good. 490. Give those guys a hand. They're all over that. Yeah, go on, give them a hand. Yeah, you pay attention in math class. This is good. Your brain is wired not like mine. So I had to look it up beforehand. So 7 times 70 is 490. And if you're like me, you probably lose track after like 5, because you start keeping track, and then like after a certain number, you just, especially once it gets to double digits, you're like, I can't even keep track anymore. But this is the triple digits, and this is like 400. This is almost 500 times you're supposed to forgive someone. But again, that's an exaggeration. These numbers carry weight more than they carry any kind of measurement. What he's saying is you need to forgive someone however many times it takes. Now, if you've been in church for very long and you've heard someone talk about this passage on forgiveness, then perhaps you thought that meant that it takes, you need to forgive them however many times it takes for them to change. Well, and that's kind of true, but there's another part of that coin. There's another half. There's another side. Part of why you need to forgive until it takes is because you need to forgive however many times it takes for you to change. For you to stop being angry at somebody. For you to start looking at somebody with compassion whenever they wrong you, rather than with self-defense. And that seems backwards, but let me kind of dig into that a little bit more. When you wrong somebody, if they are mad at you for it, most of the time that's understandable, right? We get people being mad, but whatever it is, them being mad at us feels like we still need to be mad at them back, even if we were the one that started it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like human nature. It's how we are. When someone's mad at us, we feel like, well, fine, well, I'll be mad at you back, right? And what he's saying is no, because when somebody wrongs you, and if they, or you wrong somebody, but you respond in kindness, and instead of getting angry at them, even though they deserve it, or if somebody is nice towards you, even though, like, really you just need their forgiveness, it kind of softens our hearts. So what Jesus is saying is, no, you need to forgive however many times it takes for your heart to change toward that person. Because odds are, unless they have me, Jesus, living in their life to change them, they probably are going to continue making the same mistakes. They might get better in some ways, but at the root of all the issues is the fact that they don't have Jesus as their Savior. They don't have the Spirit guiding their lives. And so they can do so much by willpower, but then after a while, they're just going to keep letting you down. And so you need to know, you need to learn that forgiveness is just part of who you are as a person, as a Christian. Your identity is wrapped around forgiveness a little bit. And see, forgiveness, at the end of the day, forgiveness helps you heal. Forgiveness is not about the other person. It's not letting the other person off the hook. It's not letting them get away with it. Forgiveness is about you. It's a condition of your heart. Forgiveness helps you to heal. As long as you're holding on to bitterness, your insides are turning cold. Your insides are becoming hard as a rock. You don't let anybody get near you. In fact, you start putting up these defense mechanisms that push people away anytime you start to get close to them because you're afraid of getting hurt all over again. But forgiveness helps you heal, and it helps you move on and live a better, a happier life. It helps us understand the nature of who God is even better, because you know what? You know it and I know it. He forgives us for our mistakes. So if the God of the universe can forgive us, I think we can forgive other people. So a few things to remember is, one, it takes practice. Forgiveness takes practice. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. It takes practice. Because it's not easy to forgive somebody, is it? When somebody wrongs you, our first inclination is to hold on to that and try to hold them accountable for it. And there is a time and a place for people to be held accountable for their actions, but your job is to forgive. Remember, it takes practice, but also remember it takes time. It's not going to happen right away. When you forgive somebody, it's not just going to be like, okay, we're all good and none of that matters anymore. There's not really such thing as forgive and forget. You know that phrase, forgive and forget? That's a faulty phrase, because you and I both know that you don't just forget something. It's not like, it magically didn't happen. I didn't remember that you did that to me that one time. No, we can't help it. It's who we are. We remember things. So it's not forgive and forget. It's forgive despite not being able to forget. It's not holding it against them, but it's also not just pretending it didn't happen. So remember, it takes time. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes time. And remember, it's more about you than anything else. Forgiveness is a condition of your heart, and forgiveness will help you heal. Forgiveness will help you heal. Because here's the one thing you can always count on, is that people are going to let you down. Not because they're trying to, not because they're mean and vindictive, but people are going to let you down because we are all broken. We all have a sinful nature inside of us. We all do things selfishly. And the result of that is that we hurt other people. So if hurt and brokenness is a part of life, then forgiveness needs to be a part of life too. Otherwise, we all just get stuck. So forgiveness takes practice, takes time, and it's about you. It's about the condition of your heart. Forgiveness helps you heal. So as you guys get ready to go to your small groups, I want you to think about this question. What makes forgiveness hard for you? Because odds are there's something about each and every one of us, maybe the same as other people, but maybe different. There's something inside of us that there's for whatever reason, it just makes us really hard to forgive. Maybe something happened to us in the past, and so it makes it harder for us to forgive people. I don't know what it is. But think about what makes forgiveness so hard for you. I'm going to pray, and then you guys will go ahead and head to your small groups.